We're the Whiskey Bros, and there's 3 things that we like to do. One of those things is eating. Over the years, we've collected a number of local and sometimes not so local destinations that are off the beaten path. We love to share, so, of course, we want to share these places with you. This feature is about more than food. In a way, it's about the culinary experience. Or, better yet, an essential, perhaps underappreciated aspect of our time around the table. We'll let the artist and his art speak for themselves. Welcome to the Wright House Arts.
Yeah, but at some point, cups, the cups we use became plastic pieces of shit.
Let's start from the beginning.
Yeah, so it's this is Welsh tea bread. The Welsh word is butterbrit. It just means tea bread. So the liquid in it is actually tea.
So you've seen our videos. We're food oriented, but this will be a feature on vessels, the food in which is served. So, what got you started in pottery?
Oh, okay. So, well, I started making art.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like the whole thing. Like before, I really remember. I remember doing some drawings when I was like barely able to read, and my parents kind of like wigging out, like, "Oh my God, it was so good!" I drew the picture of the Titanic. And they were like, they took me. My dad actually took me to meet an artist, so I do think it's his fault that I ended up here. You know, I'm just not like a big dramatic statement artist. You know, I had my moments. I thought of it, but I learned pretty quickly. Even when I had my moments, they were fairly cliche.
Yeah.
Like I just wasn't. I don't have big groundbreaking ideas. I have emotional connections I want to make to people, and pottery is a little bit more
Of a subtle
direct. It's subtle and it's emotional. It's not a statement. It's just a relationship between like an act and like eating, you know, and making food. Also taking dirt and turning it into a thing. You know, you get to be an artist. You get to be a manual laborer because, you know, especially getting into wood fire, you get to chop wood. And
As we learned, that's a lot of work.
It's a manual labor. You get to make art. You get to be a mathematician. You get to be a historian. You get to be like a mad scientist. And it's just like, it's mud and fire. Like, what's not to like?
I don't think most people connect pottery to art. I mean, if we go out there on the street and we ask whoever, okay, connect this painting to this pot. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I mean, it's just it's craft is what you're kind of talking about. I think is that a lot of people separate craft and art.
Yeah.
Because craft is like
and really it's high art.
Craft is a skill. Pottery's been around. It was like one of the first things we made.
Yeah.
You know, we had weapons and then we had pottery. Boom. Like one.
You think weapons came first?
Yeah.
Out of necessity.
Yeah.
But no plate within ceramics is going to be like any other plate.
They're all unique.
Yeah. Yeah, in a sense. I mean, unless it was made by a machine and all that sort of stuff. Well, and they're still not.
But that's not art. Nobody would look at that and say that's art.
I don't know. Because there are mass production potteries that like are making art, like pottery that's inspired by the visual.
There's art in the engineering of the mechanics.
Yeah.
And everything tonight that we're eating on is all crafted by your hands.
Well,
Except for
some of
the
them-
whiskey bottle.
Yeah, well, and I didn't make all the pots. I very intentionally didn't only put my pots out.
Okay.
Because it's important to me that people experience multiple things,
Okay.
you know. Well, you get into ceramics, and a lot of people ask what's the difference between ceramics
Yeah,
and
let's ask that. I couldn't tell you.
So clay is just clay
about
until it gets to over 1,000 degrees. When it gets over
Okay.
1,000 degrees, it becomes ceramics.
Okay.
Okay, so anything that's been fired to over 1,000 degrees is ceramics, right? And at the 1,000 degrees, there's a specific event that happens. We call it quartz inversion or quartz conversion.
Yeah.
You know, and it's all, some of it's still theoretical or just still trying to understand, but we know that the silica crystals flip and it can never go back to being clay.
Gotcha.
As it cools down.
Talk to me about the modern man's engagement with art as a modern problem.
Well,
You know,
how do you
Whisper's
mean
got this
problem?
thing.
No, I'm
No,
just trying to
think.
think of how to answer it.
Right, right.
Craft, pottery, and weaponry and tools and things like that that was being made and happened to have artistry to it was probably up until about 1700 in Western culture, maybe a few hundred years before that. It was probably the main form of art that most regular people interacted with because
Normal
Unless
everyday tools.
yeah, normal everyday things because up until, well, you know, you get a little bit of public interaction with art through churches throughout the history of Western civilization, churches and temples and public places, but most art was, like high art, was made exclusively for aristocrats.
It was a
and
teapot
upper
that they
classes.
used
Yeah, but
every
that's
day.
what regular people got to enjoy was the teapot because they didn't have access to go look at Michelangelo just anytime they wanted. They couldn't have Michelangelo in their living room.
So is the concept of pottery as art re-emergent? Is it re-emergent because of
Yeah.
our modern world?
It's re-emergent, but it's not necessarily like new.
In an era where we are detached and oblivious to everything we touch, from the flawless and featureless stainless steel of our flatware and pans to the cold, soulless, mass-produced porcelain dishes, there are a few craftsmen left in society that forged ahead a bygone period. A tradition of handcrafted pottery. A tradition that proposes the things you eat and drink from are just as important as what you eat and drink.
Come on, give us the beat.
No.